Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming here in person. Thank you for tuning in from wherever you are in the community and around the country. We appreciate your presence. In the next 20 minutes or so, I will try to discuss some of the themes of the concert. Not every piece, but some of those, and hopefully tell you a few things that might be novel to you about some of these songs. The concert theme is Spirit of America. But what is the Spirit of America? To me, the Spirit of America is the American people. It's all of us, here in this room, online, around the world, and all of the Americans who together make up this country, the common and uncommon women and men who have been pioneers, adventurers, did uncommon things to make America what it is today. In 1942, early in World War II for America, not for Europe, but for us, Aaron Copland was commissioned to write a fanfare for the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. U.S. had entered World War II just a couple months before, and Vice President Henry Wallace was trying to rally Americans against imperialism, and Copland was inspired by a speech that Wallace gave that spring at the Free World Association in New York City. Wallace said, "Some have spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering, the century which will come out of this war, starting in the 1940s, can be and must be the century of the common man." Copland would later echo that by saying it was the common man, after all, who was doing all the dirty work in the war and in the military. He deserved a fanfare. Jazz trumpeter and composer Terence Blanchard, who's a contemporary, said, "Fanfare of the Common Man is a piece that feels as though it was written by God. At the end of the day, most people in this country are good, God-fearing people. Honestly, that could have been our national anthem." Now we're going to pair that with a fanfare for the uncommon woman. Across her celebrated career, Joan Tower has made her fanfares for the uncommon woman something of a calling card. She composed a series of 5 fanfares, with the first one a direct answer to Copland's Fanfare for the Common Man, but she wrote 5 between 1986 and 1993, then encored with a 6th fanfare in 2014. Each of her fanfares are dedicated to noteworthy women who were risk takers and adventurers. Her fanfare number 6, which is the one we're playing today, was given its world premiere in 2016 by the Baltimore Symphony. And as we play it, we're going to show names and images of 24 uncommon American women who have been awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, our country's highest civilian honor. It was difficult to narrow down the list to only 24, but that number was dictated by the length of the piece. Okay. E pluribus unum. We see these words on virtually all of our nation's coinage. It was first used on a $5 gold coin in 1795. But what does that Latin phrase really mean? Why is it so important? E pluribus unum. It's best translated as out of many, one. It was the motto of the United States, adopted in 1776, until in 1956 it was supplanted by In God We Trust. But perhaps we need both mottos to remind us of from where we have come and who we are. The meaning of E pluribus unum originates from the concept that out of the union of the quite diverse original 13 colonies, who, by the way, didn't get along any better than it seems we're getting along today, But out of those diverse colonies with very different interests emerged a new single nation, which is why the Continental Congress adopted it as the motto. Today we're going to present a march by Fred Jewell written on this theme, because we're a country that, in spite of, or perhaps in respect for, our many differing opinions, we must again become one out of many. In the spring of 1860, just at the beginning of the Civil War, Harvard professor and poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, we've all read Longfellow's poems at one time or another, he began working on a poem on an otherwise, at that time, obscure messenger ride by American patriot Paul Revere. He rode on the evening of April 18, 1775. Longfellow hoped to use the story of Paul Revere's ride as a vehicle to warn the American Union it was in danger of disintegrating, which of course it was. That's why the Civil War. Even though there's good evidence that Longfellow knew the real story of Revere's ride, he did use poetic license to simplify and rearrange parts of the story. Revere arrived in Lexington just past midnight on early morning, 19th of April. We do not know what he said at each of the houses along the way, but we do know exactly what he said when he got to Lexington. However, there was a sentry on duty who wouldn't let him in. Samuel Adams and John Hancock were living in the house, and the sentry, whose, by the way, was named Sergeant Monroe, later wrote down what happened. Quote, "As Revere approached the house, I told him not to make so much noise, that everyone in the house had retired for the night. Revere cried, 'Noise? You'll have noise enough before long. The regulars are coming out.' Despite this, Revere still had trouble convincing me to let him pass, until John Hancock, who was still awake, recognized Revere's voice, heard all this commotion, and said, 'Oh, it's you, Revere. We're not afraid of you.' After which Revere said, 'The British are coming.'" Moving forward to the 20th century, 1917, Irving Berlin, who had been a pacifist up to this point, decided to enlist in the Army to support our entry into World War I. As a private, he was assigned to Camp Yaphank, which was in Yaphank, Long Island, where he was asked to write a musical about the military. And one of the most famous songs to come out of this musical, we all know. The lyrics go, "Someday I'm going to murder the bugler, someday they're going to find him dead, amputate his reveille and step upon it heavily." Okay. Yeah. This is about not liking getting up in the morning. You know, that was very clever, and other composers would have stopped there, but Berlin was always looking for the kicker, for one extra shot. And my favorite line out of this is, "And then I'll get that other pup, the one who wakes the bugler up, and spend the rest of my life in bed." I mean, after all, that's where it all starts. So that was an Army show, Camp Yaphank. Berlin wrote another song for that show, "God Bless America," but he put it back in his trunk, and it wasn't until 1940 and beginning of World War II that he dug it out, and it became the favorite it is today. And we are going to include in our Berlin medley both of these songs about getting up in the morning and about God Bless America, and another half dozen Berlin patriotic favorites. Little known is that "This Land Is Your Land," Woody Guthrie, is a protest song against God Bless America. Woody Guthrie thought God Bless America was too unrealistic, too complacent, and too sobby, in his words. He had experienced the Great Depression, he had driven across the country, and he thought he should write a song that was more inspirational. So, This Land Is Your Land celebrates the natural beauty of our country, kind of like America the Beautiful. And the chorus drives home the credo that our nation and our land belongs to all of us, not just the rich and powerful, but to everyone. Now I think we're going to jump to slide 20, Rich. Hymn number 729 in our hymn book is entitled, Lift Every Voice and Sing. The text goes, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies, let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Many of you will recognize that text. It was written in 1900 by two brothers, James Weldon Johnson and John Rosamond Johnson. James was the principal of a segregated school in Jacksonville, Florida. James later was elected to be the first African American head of the NAACP. And here is what James Weldon Johnson wrote about this great hymn. A group of young men in Jacksonville, Florida, arranged to celebrate Lincoln's birthday in 1900. My brother, J. Rosamond Johnson, and I decided to write a song to be sung at the exercises. I wrote the words, he wrote the music. Our New York publisher, Edward B. Marks, made mimeographed copies for us, and the song was taught to and sung by a chorus of 500 colored school children. Shortly afterwards, my brother and I moved away from Jacksonville. They moved to New York, and the song passed out of our minds. But the school children of Jacksonville kept singing it. They went off to other schools and sang it. They became teachers and taught it to other children. Within 20 years, it was being sung all over the South and in some other parts of the country. Today, the song, popularly known as the Negro National Anthem, is quite generally used. The lines of this song repay me in an elation, almost of exquisite anguish, whenever I hear them sung by African American children. Those are the words of James Weldon Johnson, who wrote the song. Turning to 1950s New York and West Side Story, the musical by Leonard Bernstein, Stephen Sondheim, and Arthur Lawrence. It was based on, as most of us know, one of our favorite Shakespeare plays, Romeo and Juliet. It's one of the highest grossing musicals of all time. It has classic songs, America, Tonight, Somewhere, I Feel Pretty, and it has great dance sequences that have been reproduced in countless high school, college, sitcoms, movies, music videos. And just last year, Steven Spielberg updated the musical and produced a movie version where he cast native speakers who spoke Spanish and English both. We're doing several songs from West Side Story, and one of the most popular is America, which opened it. At the beginning of West Side Story, it's a song with a dialogue between Puerto Rican immigrants. The girls point out the wonderful sides of America, and the boys point out the hard reality, and it goes back and forth. And I thought it would be good for us to be reminded of that today. The contrast of praising and condemning America, as well as Puerto Rico, awakens us to the need for growth, acceptance, understanding. Additional message of America is that we should allow and assist these historically marginalized and foreign other people to share and enjoy the American dream too. We need to do this fairly, equitably, and well. The lyrics of West Side Story may sound a little bit simplistic to us and maybe a somewhat too much of a parody of both Puerto Rican and U.S. tropes, but they express the goal of so many people from every part of the globe that want to become Americans. Despite our flaws, despite our imperfections, we remain this land of hope, opportunity, freedom for people across the world.